Give it 1 second. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming an hour early tonight. This is our annual budget presentation. I will try not to bore you too much, and I will try to get through this in an hour before we have the regular agenda meeting at 7 p.m. So basically, we're here for the 2025 budget presentation. This is the general fund and the highlights of the proposed budget. It is a balanced budget. It's being proposed, no deficit spending. There's no tax increase proposed. There is an increase proposed in the garbage fee for 2025, and I'll get into that later, and a couple other minor fees increases proposed that are associated with building permits, occupancy permits, and dye tests. Basically the budget funds all the borough services at the current level with the current number of employees, provides funding for the construction of the new municipal building, for renovations of the DPW garage, funding for replacement of an SUV in the fire department, a pickup in the DPW, and one pickup with a park hand dumpster. That's our little trash truck for the alleys, for the trash collection. It also provides funding for the police regionalization if council decides to move forward on that, and I'll give more explanation on that later. General fund budget is proposed at $19,478,591.11 for 2025. As you can see, it's a significant increase of over $5 million, $5.7 million. The reason for that is because our auditors asked us to now show all incoming grants as income, even though they just pass right through the budget, even though that we're not guaranteed to get them. They asked that we show them as income and expenditures in the budget. So that's why that is swollen so much. So it adds $4,901,450 to the budget. So the operational increase is then only $833,279.60, or 6.06%. So this is a summary of our anticipated revenues for 2025, and decreases and increases. You can see there's a modest increase in the real estate tax, slight decrease in regional asset, modest increase in local enabling taxes, and I'll touch on every one of these departments. If you go down here to section 350, intergovernmental revenues, that's the grant proceeds. That's why that's so much higher. Departmental earnings, 11%. Solid waste revenue, 20%. That's because we are requesting an increase in that fee for the year. And like I said, it's a 41% increase overall. So the first section is Department 301 real estate taxes, which is comprised of current real estate taxes of 9 mills, delinquent real estate taxes, and prior years. Prior years taxes are basically anything that's paid at the end of the year that doesn't get into the bank account by December 31st, or it is also when there's a property is reassessed and it's reassessed for a previous year, it goes into this fund also. I'm projecting an increase of about $35,500 based upon our current collections and the reassessments we've seen. There have been a lot of reassessments triggered by the Woodland Hills School District that's increased our overall tax base. However, I just found out last week that the Edgewood Town Center office building was recently reassessed and they dropped the assessment over $2 million. So that's about $20,000 loss in revenue for the borough next year. So I had to factor that into this overall increase. So that's why we're a little bit low on the increase than we normally. We look at a $50,000 to $70,000 increase, but because of that one building, it's a significant loss. Regional asset district sales tax. This is a 1% additional sales tax levied in Allegheny County. Our share of it is we're on track to collect about $435,000 in 2024. I budgeted at $440,000 in 2025, just a modest increase. Local enabling taxes, that's our real estate transfer taxes, earned income taxes, local services tax, amusement tax, and business privilege tax. projecting about a $46,000 increase in that area. The primary drivers of this is guessing about a 3.5% increase in income tax revenues. That's what I was projecting, and then Keystone Collections also gave me a number within about $1,000 of what my estimate was. So they're assuming that and based on the trends we're seeing, we think it's going to be about 3.5% increase in earned income tax revenue next year. Local services tax is up. That's the $52 tax that you pay $2 a week out of your check for anybody working in Swissvale. We get that from. So that's at about $110,000 this year, which is about $8,000 over what we budgeted, which is good. So we left it the same from, for next year at 110 at what we actually saw. So which is a 7% increase. And delinquent business privilege tax, estimated 13.33% increase. The fire department's been pretty diligent about going after them and filing citations against people who don't pay the $100 annual fee. Department 320 licenses and permits comprised primarily of cable TV franchise fees, street opening permits, and electronic mechanical devices. Our cable TV franchise fee, we get 5% of any revenue generated for cable TV in Swissvale from Comcast and Fios. Drops every year because the people are cutting the cord, they're going to streaming services. Unfortunately, we don't get any money off streaming services or internet or anything like that. We only get it off the cable TV. So that's projected to drop for 2025. The electronic mechanical devices have increased substantially in the past 2 years. And basically that's an assessment, on basically the legal slot machines, if you want to call them that, the games of skill that the state calls them, that are in a lot of bars, and we have that little parlor on Noble Street. We have seen a tremendous increase in those last couple of years. Street opening permits, we project to remain stable around $40,000, but we're looking at an overall decrease in this department as a result of the cable TV franchise fees continuing to drop. Department 330 fines and forfeits, primarily police department fines, code enforcement fines, and parking tickets. Not projecting any change for 2025. Interest earnings, showing them as a decrease again, and we're only talking from $750 to $500. The banks have not given us an increase in that like they've gotten in their borrowing rates. Rents and royalties, this is comprised of the income from the BP sign property. We own that property at the intersection of Monongahela and South Braddock, and the gas station rents from us for $4,000 a year for the sign, and we also get $4,300 a year from PRT and Lamar Advertising for the bus shelters being located in the rights of way. That contract is up for renewal, so that's something we'll be bringing to you in the next couple months to renew that, hopefully at a little higher rate for the bus shelters. Department 350 intergovernmental revenues. This is primarily grant income, state pension aid, foreign fire insurance tax, PERDO, and beverage licenses. This is the one that's projected to go up over 1,160% since we're recognizing all the grant receipts, even ones we don't know if we're going to get as income. The actual increase is about 15.66% due to the increases in state aid for pensions, which are projected to continue. We received about 15% higher this year than we did the previous year on the state aid for the pensions. So that continues to climb every year, and that helps offset some of our other costs in the budget. Department 360, departmental earnings. This is building permits, occupancy permits. We get reimbursed from Woodland Hills School District for 50% of the crossing guard costs, and payments for services in other municipalities such as trash collection in Chalfont and Pitcairn, both which will continue at a higher rate and continue in 2025 at a higher rate. We are looking at about 11% increase in this area, and myself and the Finance Committee are proposing to council to increase the cost of 4 areas in our fee schedule, and that's building permits, occupancy permits, lien letters, and die tests. And the reason to request those the council look at those increases, it's because when you're doing a project when you're requesting a building permit, there's somebody has to process the permit, issue the permit, go out and do the inspections, re-inspections, do multiple inspections on the property, and then provide a feedback to the property owners and work with the owners. We are charging right now for a commercial building permit 50 cents a square foot. If the state were to do this for us, which is an option, you can opt into the state doing it. They charge 78 cents a square foot with $360 base fee. We have no base fee. It's only 50 cents a square foot. Residential is 40 cents. We are proposing to move the building permits from 40 cents for residential and 50 for commercial to 50 for residential and 60 cents per square foot to commercial. Occupancy permits we're proposing to move from $60 to $75. And the lien letters and die tests we're proposing to add $10. We're only proposing to cover the costs, what we feel would cover the costs to do these. You as a taxpayer who's not adding on to your house, not getting revenue from a rental income, not selling your house, etc., you should not be subsidizing other people's projects. The people doing the project should be paying the share of what's required for us to do those jobs, and that's the goal of those areas, increasing them. And if we did that, it will raise a little under between $29,000 and $30,000 based upon this year's current revenues, this year's current number of permits and applications. Most other areas in this department remain stagnant, so we're looking at about 11% increase. Solid waste revenue comprises garbage fees, the fees collected for garbage collection and delinquent garbage collection. We are proposing an increase of $50 per household in the trash collection fee for 2025 from $175 to $225. This keeps us still in the bottom of our surrounding municipalities. Is very, very much lower than what other municipalities are charging. Some of our neighboring municipalities are charging over $400 a year. By doing it in-house, we can keep the price lower than everybody else, but it's every now and then we still need to increase the fees. And they're going up because we've had significant increases in the landfill and recycling fees, significant increases in wages for the employees who collect the trash from recycling, significant increases in vehicle costs and maintenance. The price of a truck has doubled in the last 8 years from $150,000 to over $300,000 now. We've also had significant increases in our workers' compensation and liability insurances, as everyone's aware. So, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody on council because we've discussed it with everyone. But unfortunately, at some point you do have to raise the fees to cover the costs. And basically, if we were outsourcing this, we would just take whatever the total is, divide by the number of residential units, and that would be the fee. That's what we're trying to do here, is just cover the costs. The same way with if we were running a business. Miscellaneous, this is comprised of miscellaneous receipts, contributions, reimbursements, and dividends and sales surplus property. There's a slight increase anticipated as a result of revenue from the EV chargers on Aurelius Avenue. A couple $1,000s will be generated, and surplus property disposal as we get some new vehicles in that were ordered this year, and also vehicles that are budgeted. Interfund operating transfers. This is comprised of transfers from other funds to the general fund. Typically, we make a transfer from the SOAR fund to the general fund annually to cover the labor costs of SOAR-related work throughout the year. That also includes street sweeping and leaf collection, because they're all part of the SOAR consent decree with Allegheny County and DEP. I would like to move the remaining ARPA funds to the general fund to be spent in 2025 for any council-directed activities that you would like to see with the money that was allocated to each individual council member and also the mayor. I would like to try to try to at least get this committed, and hopefully most of it spent by the end of 2025. So we're not continuing multiple years under this with the ARPA. And then there's a $95,000 transfer from previous year surpluses to the general fund to balance the general fund for 2025. Proceeds from long-term debt. Basically what that is when we borrow money, you have to recognize it as income, and the loan proceeds as income, even if you're moving it to another fund or paying directly from the general fund to pay bills. That increases by 16.77% for 2025 in anticipation of the borough building and DPW building construction. Covers the income from the borrowing for that construction. Like I said, it's pretty much a pass through. Proposing budgeting $5.5 million for that next year, which would be $4.5 million for the borough building and $1 million for the DPW building. And this all comes from a loan, so you could put it in there 2 million or 10 million. As long as you have the loan proceeds, it doesn't affect the actual budget. So we have the proceeds from the annual TAN loan, the amount of $600,000. TAN is our tax anticipation note, which we take every December or January. Basically helps us pay our bills until we have cash flow. When the trash fee starts coming in February, March timeframe, and then our larger money from the real estate tax. So that is the total projected revenues of $19,478,591.11. And it's approximately outside of the borrowing and the capital projects, the grant revenue, it's about a $9 million budget is what it really is. So, but with all the other things we have to recognize, it balloons it to $19,478,591.11. So that is the general summary of revenues, and I'll open up to council members and the mayor right now if you have any questions on the revenue side of it before I move into the expenses. Okay, if nobody has any questions, we'll just keep rolling onto the expenses. So this is just a summary that shows all the different departments, different expenses. There's nothing. The largest increase in any of them is 99%, which is at the bottom here. This is where the transfers to the capital fund are made for the $5.5 million for the borough building, DPW building, and all the grants. That's why that is just kind of high. 31% under financial administration, but you see there's which is only an $8,000 increase, and the rest are generally pretty well in line with what they should be. So I'll start each individual department. So the first thing is Department 400, which is general government. This funds the salaries of the borough council members and the mayor, as well as dues, subscriptions, memberships, and conference attendance. The requested budget's $32,423, which is the same as last year. No increase or decrease. For this year, for 2025, council and mayor's salaries are set by, they can't be more than $2,500 a piece, and that's what they are. Now, in the future, and this is something we can discuss at the next meeting or the January meeting, new legislation was passed that council members salaries in a borough our size can be increased to $4,125. If that's something you would want to entertain, you would have to pass a motion to do that no later than February 15th, 2025 for anybody that takes office in 2026. You can't vote to increase your own salary, but you can vote to increase the salary of incoming members. We also have to set the tax collector's salary before February 15th of next year for the 2026. The term starts in 2026 through 2029. So just something that'll be coming up. Administration, this funds the borough administration department, including salaries and benefits of myself, the office staff, financial consulting services, risk management consulting services, IT, our website, and borough newsletter. We're looking at a requested budget of $582,664.89, which is a 6.38% increase from 2024. And reasons for that are wage increases. There was a spike in the pension contribution for 2025, primarily because of Jordan, because we have an additional person. Although Jordan's salary is paid out of the DPW department, his pension is paid out of admin because he's in our admin pension. So there was a spike because of him this year, because we actually have 4 people that are working toward, that have been here more than 6 months now, which in admin, which in the last few years, that's been not the case. And the last thing under that department is we're proposing to purchase a software called GoGov, which is basically a complaint tracking software and issue tracking software, where if somebody calls with a complaint, Shay or Sarah can take the call and enter the complaint directly into this GoGov software. And what it does is it generates a ticket to whoever they designate, whether it's Jordan or myself, or Chief Wilhelm or Chief Watson, for whether it's a pothole, a burnout street light, a code enforcement issue, a police issue. It generates a ticket, and then there's more accountability on the part of the person who receives the ticket to follow up and make sure that the tickets get addressed and closed out. If the complaint's unfounded, it's unfounded, but they will be required to go in the system and state that and why. So it's something we want to look at doing for 2025. Rather than handing out pink slips, a little paper, from message pads, the GoGov software, you could access it off your computer, off your phone, in any number of ways. So if people call with garbage complaints, garbage miss or something, it can go right to Jordan's phone, and he can go look at it, rather than waiting until he comes back to the office or them having to text message him all day. So it's a nice piece of software, and we would like to implement that. The cost of that is $7,500 annually.
Greg, just a quick question on that one. Is that the one that I passed your way, or this isn't the one that drives around the neighborhood, right, and scans the roads and stuff?
No, it is not.
Okay, but I support that. The other one. I mean, what you're planning to do. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Next is financial administration. This pays for costs of our annual audit, payroll processing fees, and bank service charges. 31% increase this year. Primary reason is cost of the annual audit has increased almost $4,000, and our bank service fees are up. So this just reflects actual budgetary line items, actual payments we made. Tax collection, this pays for this funds. I don't want anybody to think that this all goes to Tom Barr, our elected tax collector. Actually, only a small portion does. This funds the cost of real estate tax collection by Mr. Barr, delinquent real estate tax collection by Keystone Collections, delinquent earned income tax collection by Keystone, garbage fee collection by Mr. Barr, and delinquent garbage collection by Keystone. So there's multiple directions the money goes. Looking at a decrease of 10.68%, basically basing it on the commissions we paid out to Keystone the last couple of years for delinquent collections. And also, we're not leaning every property that's the tax delinquent, because there's properties out there that the taxes haven't been paid for 80 years, basically. Steep hillsides, just junk properties that we know nobody's going to buy. So there's no sense spending the money annually to lien them. So there is a savings by not liening every property. We're liening the ones that have value, and that when they sell or they get sheriff sold, that we'll reap that benefit. Legal, this pays for the borough solicitor and any outside legal counsel necessary, and legal transcripts for any purpose. We're projecting a slight decrease of 8.23%. Last year at this time, we had a number of outstanding legal issues. We had 2 arbitrations coming up. So we budgeted more. We're taking this back down to where it was before. Also, there's no contract negotiations scheduled for 2025 where we would need the solicitor's office to review or participate. So that we're hoping for less. We have less on the table right now than we did last year at this time. That's why I increased it for 2024, knowing what we had hanging out there. Engineering, this is just the same as it's been for a number of years, $5,000. This basically pays for the borough engineer's attendance at monthly meetings, his monthly report preparation. and anything that can't be charged to a grant, a specific project, or the SOAR fund. 95%, 97% of what our engineer's office does is all grants, project, or SOAR fund related. So that's why there's only a modest cost here with no decrease for or increase for 2025. Buildings and plants, this funds janitorial services, supplies, maintenance, and utility costs for all borough buildings and properties. This includes Memorial Park, Collingwood Park, the DPW garage, and the former borough building. I decreased this significantly in 2024 because the borough building was removed. However, we've had a number of issues at Memorial Park with water issues, water line replacement, broken water lines and such. So I did bump this up for 2025 to reflect actual expenditures this year. Police department. Okay, so police department, you all know we've been talking about regionalization with Braddock Hills. I prepared a budget with regionalization. I prepared a budget without regionalization. The budget without regionalization is what's in front of you here, $2,559,562.44. It's an increase of 2.75% from 2024, primarily because of contractual wage increases and our workers' comp increase. Now, this budget that we presented here is that I'm presenting to you and that you're going to be asked to vote on December 4th does not specifically call out for regionalization. And the reason for that is you have to take a separate vote on the regionalization at some point, whether we're doing it or not. I don't want to put it in the budget and you vote on a budget that kind of forces your hand that, oh yeah, we just voted for the regionalization or we just voted to not regionalize. So what I did here was I put the budget numbers in at what they currently are for the police department and any other department, any other line item that would be affected by it. But I also did there's a second budget that I did for the police department and then the, insurances and different things in other areas of the budget change also. It adds $65,000 to the budget for 2025. And that's not out of line with what we presented at the meeting at the end of August over at Dixon School. However, like I said, I don't want you voting on a budget that forces your hand to do something or not do something. So I added the additional $65,000 under line item 495.100. If the regionalization moves forward, the money's there. If it doesn't, then there's excess funds. But the regionalization expenses are included in the budget. There's money to fund it if that's the path we choose. So like I said, I don't want the budget to twist anybody's arm to doing something. So when you vote on the budget, you're just going to be asked to vote on the budget as if nothing's changing. And then if something does change with regionalization, the money's there. So I'll show it to you in 495. Fire department, we had this pays for the Swissville Fire Department, building inspection, code enforcement offices. Requested budget of $1,552,251.41, which is a 4.57% increase over 2024. Contractual wage increases, workers' comp, and also now we had no increase in our health insurance for 2025, which I would love to take credit for, but I can't. It's just the carrier came back that no increase for 25, so which is great. But there is a healthcare increase in the fire department because of a personnel change, because one of the firefighters elected to go to a family coverage, which they pay 50% of the additional coverage, and we pay 50%. So that's why there is a healthcare change, and that's the only department that shows a change in the cost. The other thing is new reporting software. The county used to pay for the reporting software, and they're discontinuing doing that in 2025. So we're on our own to pay for it. Now we still have to use their vendor that they choose, but we have to pay for our municipality. So there's $6,000 funded, budgeted in the fire department budget for the reporting software. Planning and zoning, we've been talking about codification of our ordinances. I think for the 9 years I've worked here, Chief Wilhelm has drafted an RFP to send out to potential contractors. So hopefully we get our contractors, but to people to do that, to suppliers to do that. But so hopefully we get this off the ground sometime next year. We're just continuing to budget the 15,000 that we had in there. Crossing guards, this is one of the smaller department budgets, $76,080. It's a 2.99% increase over last year, and that's their wage increase and the increase in the workers' comp premium driving that. And we do get reimbursed half that money from the school district. Recycling, collection and disposal funds the salaries of 2 employees in DPW who collect the recycling. The funds are also included for recycling disposal, purchase of recycling bins, fuel, vehicle maintenance, and the cost of our annual e-waste collection that we have in May every year. The requested budget, $235,873.98. It's 11.42% increase. And this is because of increased wages in the new contract, increased workers' comp premium, and increased recycling fees. And the workers' comp premiums are higher in the recycling, trash, and public works departments because that's higher propensity for accidents in those departments, not just Swissvale, but everywhere, but also because we did have a major accident about 1.5 years ago. So that is reflected in our 2025 premiums. So that budget's up 11.42%. Solid waste collection, we're at $832,677.49, 9.68% increase. Basically same reasons as recycling, it's an increase in wages and workers' comp premiums, and also landfill fees, which climb every year. Public Works funds all of the aspects of the Public Works Department with the exception of garbage and recycling. We're a budget request of $1,143,678.40, which is an 8.94% decrease from last year. However, the decrease is because the auditors have previously wanted us to, any loan that came in, as I had mentioned before, like for the borough building or the DPW garage, we had to recognize it as income and then the corresponding expenditure. So there was $210,000 in the DPW line last year for new vehicles to recognize the income and the expense for the loan. They told me at the end of last year, we don't need to do that anymore. So we don't need to recognize the loan on short-term assets, only long-term borrowing, such as the public works and borough building. These loans, they're 5 years in length, 3 years in length, some of them depending on what they are, on what kind of vehicle it is. We do not have to recognize it anymore. So it looks like it's an 8.94% decrease. It's actually a 9.33% increase because of the wage increases and workers' comp premiums. And there is one new vehicle in the Public Works Department, as we mentioned, under this budget. Mr. D'Ambrosio requested 2. I removed 1 to try to keep the budget down. There was also a couple changes in police and fire. I forgot to mention because of I did reduce some of the overtime in their budgets and the part-time wages to try to to make this balance a little better. Department 450 Recreation, it funds the cost of municipal recreation programs. I've lowered this to $3,000, which is 75% decrease. The majority of the funds we reallocated because they have not been used for several years. We've had very little money used in that, so we moved the money around. Culture funds maintenance of our street trees, contributions to the Swissvale Library, food pantry, and the numerous celebrations occurring in the borough annually, like Juneteenth and Community Days. Decrease of 11.49%. 2 major reasons. One, I removed the funding from the Artists in Residence program, as we haven't used it for a number of years. And also the Juneteenth expenses were artificially higher last year because there was a donation of funds, of ARPA funds, from a previous council member that were reflected in the 2024 budget. So this was dropped back down to $3,000 from its higher number. I think it was at $6,000 last year. Total budget for that department is only $38,500. Debt service This funds all the debt service in the borough that the borough's incurred, with the exception of lease payments for vehicles, which are included in individual departments. There's 20% increase here, and the reason for that is I put the entire 1 mil from the tax increase 3 years ago into the budget, into this line items, the budget. Previously, we were taking about 190,000 to 195,000 to pay the engineering fees for the borough building. Since we will be hopefully incurring more debt service with this next year, hopefully we'll be under construction. I put it all into this line item. So that's why it went up, but it was just a case of moving it from one line to another line. Employer taxes, department funds the cost of unemployment comp that's charged back to the borough for employees or elected officials who are collecting unemployment comp anytime during the year. Just left this the same as 2024. Judgments, this is, if we damage something, we have $1,000 to pay to put toward that payment to repair stuff. Insurances, 12.15% increase. Everything but your workers' comp and healthcare is covered under here. Liability, casualty, vehicle, employee dishonesty, cyber security, cyber insurance, which we bought last year for the first time, fire theft, fidelity bond for the tax collector, and also elected officials insurance is paid in under here. The 12.15% reflects the actuals for 2024, and which the policies renew on April 4th. So, there is money built in here for anything, for an increase. But basically, it's industry-wide trends and the claims history. The claims history being that garbage truck accident, which hit us on the workers' comp and the liability. Miscellaneous transfers and others. This funds tax refunds to property owners who successfully appeal their property assessments, are dues to the land bank, RAD reimbursements to the COG, and transfers to other borough funds. There's no RAD reimbursement due to the COG next year because we received less money this year than we did in 2023. We only have to give, when we receive more money from RAD than we did the previous year, under the RAD legislation, we have to pay 25% of that increase to the Turtle Creek COG. But we won't have to pay them any of that next year because our what we received went down. The $10,760,000 is $5.5 million of transfers from loan proceeds for the borough building and DPW building, and $4.9 million in transfers from grant funds to the capital fund. That's why this shows almost 100% increase. And like I said, because we're itemizing each grant received and transfer into the capital fund. So in a nutshell, we're looking at a balanced budget, and the way we balanced the budget was using a $50 annual increase in the garbage and recycling fee, which is necessary. It's the first time in 7 years it's been increased. Fee increases in building permits, occupancy permits, lien letters, and dye tests. Basically, those are all user fees. So if you're not doing any projects, you as a Swissvale resident are not subsidizing people that are. The cost should be borne by the people who are doing the project, not by the other taxpayers who are not doing anything. And there is transfer from the previous year's surplus in there. And the transfer is $95,000, $65,000 of which is for the regionalization. $30,000, we only need $30,000 to balance the budget without the regionalization. And as I said, if we do the regionalization, the money is there. If we don't have to, we have $65,000 in additional funds. So we also have capital fund, which is where all this money goes to, that comes in for the borough building, DPW, and all the grants, and we pay it out of there, all the bills out of there. That's about an $11 million budget proposed for next year. Keeping in mind, though, that we're talking about a $19 million budget, not an $11 million budget. We don't have a $30 million budget. We have a $9 million budget with a whole bunch of pass-throughs in it, with borrowing and grant funds, and it gets passed through. And so 9 becomes $19 million. And then when you pass all that money over to the capital fund for payment, Now it shows $11 million over there, but don't let it fool you that it's a $30 million budget, because it's not. It's a $9 to $10 million budget. We have the motor license fund that funds streetlight electricity, traffic signal electricity, traffic signal repairs, and rock salt purchases. Our income in 2025 will be around $226,500. There will be some fund balance going into that because we haven't bought a whole lot of rock salt in the last couple of years. And we still owe them, we still owe Cargill for the last 2.5 years of purchases. We have to actually take possession of a good bit of that. So, but we have a balanced motor license fund for 2025 based upon that income. Keeping in mind this $226,500 income has dropped from over $250,000 just 6 years ago, basically because people are driving less because they're working from home. This is generated from the motor vehicle fuels tax, and people are driving less now because they're working from home. Cars are more fuel efficient. There are more hybrids on the road, more EVs on the road. EVs don't buy any gas. But on January 1st, 2025, there was legislation passed that goes into effect January 1, that all EV owners have to pay an additional $200 on their registration. And the following year, it's $290. And that all goes into the liquid fuels fund to make up for losses from the fuels tax, because the fuels tax goes to pay for road reconstruction and road-related things, and EVs have actually been found to cause more damage to roads, because if you have a Ford Escape gasoline engine and you have a Ford Escape EV, the Escape EV is going to weigh about 1,000 pounds more because of the weight of the battery. Even though there's no engine in the vehicle, just small motors, but you have that large battery, they actually do more damage to the roads. So that's why the state passed that legislation. So hopefully this $226,500, hopefully we'll see a bump in 26 and in the following years to come. And then the last fund is our sewer fund. Funds our Alcoasand sewer bill, all of our storm and sanitary sewer repairs, street sweeper payments, fuel and maintenance, and leaf collection expenses. Fund balance is getting low there. 5 years ago, we had a balance of almost $2 million. Now we're down to about less than $500,000. And that's because we've had to do more projects. We had a couple big emergency repairs a couple years ago that the fund hasn't recovered from. And, and we also have a lot of repairs coming up as a result of the Alcoasand takeover, to the tune of a couple $100,000. So this is something we should have a conversation about at some point, about increasing the fee that the borough retains, because we have to fund our expenses. And unfortunately, just like everything, the cost of sewer repairs has gone up exponentially over the last couple of years. And that's it. So thanks for your patience. We got through in less than an hour, so we can get to our regular meeting on time, but if any council member or the mayor has any questions at this point, now would be a good time to ask.
Mr. Backey, thank you. Thank you so much for that thorough presentation. Just if there are public that are watching, when and how can they access this budget to be able to review it themselves?
Budget will be posted online on Friday, probably later on Friday. The advertisement's been placed so that there will be a 10-day review period, and the 10-day review period, the legal 10-day review period, actually starts on Saturday, the 23rd, and goes until December 3rd, which is the following Tuesday, the week after. And this budget will be online on Friday for your review. And if you have any questions or comments, you can forward them to the borough office. There'll be there will be directions on how to do that. And when we get those in, I will respond to any questions. Now, the questions I'm going to respond to are: what is this money used for? What is this, what is this fund for? What makes up this fund, or, why was there an increase in this fund? I'm not going to respond to, to some of the questions I got last year. like, what was council thinking? Why are they doing this? Just like incendiary questions and comments that were actually pretty much kind of rude and downright, unnecessary. The technical questions will all be answered within the 10 days before council votes. And if anybody has any comments, they can come to the council meeting and give public comment on December 4th prior to council taking the vote.
Just a quick question, Greg. Will you also be posting that on Facebook? Because I know a lot of our folks are getting information on Facebook, not websites.
Well, when I say website, I mean a website and all of our social media. So it'll be on Facebook. Is Instagram also, Sarah? She might-
Yes, it'll be posted everywhere.
Yeah.
We'll
So
send out a text alert too.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
yeah. So we, we do post it on the majority of what I agree with Kevin or Mr. Haynes. The majority of the people that look at stuff look at it on Facebook. So we always make sure everything's posted to Facebook when we have job opportunities or anything. Facebook's more important than the website is.
Great, thank you. And if the more we can make things shareable, the better, because I mean, I'm happy to share with folks too, just to get the word out so we can increase transparency. Thank you so much.
Any other questions from council members? Okay, well, with that said, I will close the presentation. And if everybody just wants to reconvene in 10 minutes or so, we'll get started on the agenda meeting.
Yeah, and since, we can't start that meeting until 7 o'clock, since we're already all on it, go ahead and take a brief recess, but I will be starting that pretty close to 7 o'clock sharp. Make sure that you're able to be back on. So don't leave the meeting, just mute yourself.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I would like to welcome everyone to the Borough of Swissvale Council Agenda Meeting for November 20th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:00 p.m. Let's go ahead and go through our roll call. Miss Alfonso Wells.
Present.
Mr. Haynes.
Present.
Mr. Miser.
Here.
Mr. Quinn.
President, good evening.
Miss Stribling.
Present.
Miss Swartzwelder.
I am here.
And Mayor Swartzwelder. Mayor Swartzwelder, can you hear us? She is on, but might be away from her computer. I'm
I
sure she...
think she might be multitasking right now.
I'm back. I'm back. I was just rolling egg rolls. Sorry, I'm working.
No worries. It's all right. I saw you were on here, but just for the sake of the public, wanted them to hear your voice. Thanks for checking in. We'll keep moving on to our public comment. None was submitted, no one registered to speak at public comment tonight. So we're just going to go to our agenda items. The first item is discuss 2025 budget and tax resolution. Mr. Batchy, thank you so much for that thorough presentation. That's the third time I've gotten to hear it. So thanks so much for putting it together. And I don't know if council members have any comments or questions about the budget.
Yeah, so if there's no comments or questions, basically we just need to pass a resolution to adopt the budget on December 4th. And also we have to pass a separate resolution to enact a tax rate at 9 mils, which is the same as it is for 2024.
I did have a weird kind of question.
Go ahead.
So my weird kind of question is, and I don't know like how it works, but I just wonder if there is, I know we have the, $65,000 set aside for the regionalization, right? And say that didn't take place, could that money go towards the fee for the garbage? That was my question. Or was it less than the fee for the garbage in total?
Well,
The increased fee.
additional fee is is over 100,000, so it could go to offset, but not absorb it 100%. Yeah, so I mean you can,
and it would only be for 1 year, right?
It would only be for 1 year, and you would still be drawn from the surpluses, which I would recommend if we do the regionalization to do that, but if not, put the money back in the surpluses. But no, to answer your question, yes, you can use that to offset if you didn't do the regionalization.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was it just popped in my head.
And I would just add into that if we did decide to go down that route, we would have to wait until we knew whether or not regionalization was happening, which would hopefully will be in a couple of months. But usually the garbage bills are one of the first bills that come out in the calendar year. So those probably will have already gone out. So it would probably be more of affecting 2026 as opposed to 2025.
Yeah, and we have to enact the resolution to increase the garbage fee at next month's meeting anyway. So you'd have to make these decisions within 2 weeks if that was what you wanted to do.
Thank you.
Mr. Miser, I saw you unmute earlier. Do you have a question?
Oh, not a question. I was just going to make a comment and thank Greg again thank Mr. Batchy again for his presentation. I just really appreciate, I was able to review the budget with the finance committee yesterday, and just the work that he puts into a PowerPoint and really making it digestible and easy to read by the public. Just really appreciate the work he puts into that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we will add that to our meeting, which is in 2 weeks, not next week, the day before Thanksgiving, but on December 4th, which will be our in-person meeting at Dixon. We'll add that to the agenda to vote on. Item 2 is discuss 2025 TAN loan. Mr. Batchy, can you give some background on the TAN for folks who are listening and are not aware of it?
Sure. TAN loan TAN means tax anticipation note, which is most municipalities take a short-term loan from their bank for operating capital until their sources of revenue come in. As I mentioned during the budget presentation, our revenue starts coming in around March 1st when the garbage bills go out, and then more so in May when the real estate tax bills go out. The $600,000 we borrow annually helps us get through that time where there's cash flow issues. And this is just a systemic thing with all municipalities because unless you have millions of dollars in reserves, there's no way you can get by without a TAN loan. So I did receive a proposal from the bank yesterday at 5.35% interest for 2025. And honestly, I don't know what this year's interest rate was. I believe it was 5.72. But I didn't have a chance to pull the file and look at it. So I think though there was a reduction in the interest rate for 2025.
Any questions about this item or any discussion you all want to have about TAN loans? All right, well, we'll add that. And as Mr. Batchy said, that's really for cash flow to make sure that there's enough to pay until everything until the bulk. I mean, garbage bills come in early in the year, but about midway through the year is when the real estate taxes come in, which is really, I know, the largest subset of our income, as we saw. Help us bridge the gap. Let's move on to item 3, discuss changes to borough fee schedule. I believe this is the code enforcement building permits side of things that you were talking about during the budget meeting. Do you have any other comments about that, Mr. Batchy?
No, just in case you weren't watching the budget meeting, just basically, we are proposing an increase in the building permit costs, occupancy permit costs, lien letters, and die tests. These are all fees paid by people who are buying and selling homes, adding on to homes, transferring for apartment owners who are transferring occupancy of occupants. And basically, the theory is you're supposed to cover the fees generated or cover the amount of the cost generated for your own project, because the way it is right now, we're getting to the point where every one of you is subsidizing every person who's building something or doing getting occupancy permits, because our costs are exceeding what we're charging. So we're asking for a modest increase of $10 each on lien letters and die tests. We're asking for occupancy permits to be increased from $60 to $75, and for building permits, commercial, to be increased from 50 to 60 cents a square feet, and residential from 40 to 50 cents a square feet. We feel that'll cover the cost more equitably. Chief Wilhelm did some research, and some of the other municipalities around here are charging similar amounts of money for those things. And also the state, they charge 78 cents a square foot for commercial. We're only proposing to go to 60 cents, and they have a base fee of $360. So, we're still going to be lower than what the state would charge if they did this for us. And, but we'll be covering costs that the rest of the taxpayers should not be subsidizing. And Chief, if you have anything to add.
Yes, the state actually came out with their new fees since I first pulled them up at the end of last month. They actually increased it to a $402.03 base fee plus 81 cents per square foot.
Oh, so it's even better.
Yeah, so I mean, to give you a comparison, I'll just give you one, but I pulled a couple projects. An example for one building that we issued this year, it was 4,347 square foot. Our current fees were, with it including the plan review, were 2,682.50. Under the new, there'll be 3,117.20, and under the state would be $4,730.92 for new construction. But if it's an alteration or a remodel, it actually is $9,350.85, because they charge $81.41 per thousand for renovations and alterations. So yeah, and I looked at most of the municipalities third party this, because the ones around us are smaller than we are as far as growth, and it's hard to get their published fees. But on the other stuff, as an example, occupancy, we would be going from 60 to 75 for basic residential occupancy. North Braddock's charging 75, Braddock Hills is charging 90, and Homestead is charging 88. Those were ones that I could easily pull up online so that you can have a comparison. On die tests, we were charging 25, we're going to 35. Edgewood's charging 40, Braddock Hills 35, Homestead 59. Lien letters, same thing. Edgewood's charging 45, Braddock Hills 40, Homestead 70. So we're still less than surrounding communities, but nonetheless, it helps cover the cost of the administration of the program. And that's the whole intent of the permits. It's not to penalize anybody or generate revenue. It's to try to cover the cost of what it costs us to provide those services.
Thank you, both Mr. Batchy and Chief Wilhelm, for putting that together. Ms. Alfonso Wells, I saw your hand earlier. Did you still have a question or want to speak on this?
No, I just thought it was a rather modest increase. We did try to make sure that we weren't trying to be excessive. We were trying to keep it in line with making sure that our costs are covered in terms of doing this, and very modest, very modest. We really took the lowest approach possible, but there has to be a change in some of these costs. Nothing's changed in years and years and years. And unfortunately, it falls under us to make sure that we're fiscally responsible by making sure that we make this modest increase.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Just for clarity too. So whenever you see this, because I know Greg overwhelmed right now with all the grants and the budget and everything. Currently, we have 2 classes for residential: new construction, 40 cents a square foot. Alterations and renovations is 50 cents a square foot. We don't have any new construction, so we just wanted to simplify that and make it 60 cents a square foot. And it's the same for commercial. It's 40 and 50, and we would just make it a flat 60 to simplify it. 60 cents a square foot.
Any other discussion, deliberations from council? All right, we'll put that on the agenda for our legislative meeting in 2 weeks. Let's move on to item 4, discuss the 2025 garbage and recycling fees.
Yeah, so as we talked about in the budget meeting and earlier, we are looking at a $50 increase to $225. We're still one of the lowest around as a result of that to do it. And that's primarily because we are doing it ourselves, doing it in-house. And I saw an article the other day in the Tribune Review. There's a number of other municipalities who are looking to start their own in-house trash collection in Westmoreland County. This is the trend. We were kind of the trendsetters 9 years ago by moving to doing it going back to doing it on our own. And we're still saving money. We're well below where we would be if we contracted it. But there comes a time when you have to raise the rates regardless of whether you do it in-house or whether you do it whether you subcontract it. This is partially a result of the union contract negotiations, also a result of increasing fees and cost of trucks, cost of fuel, cost of landfill fees. So it just got to the point where we've been able to keep up, and we're past that point now. So and I'd just like to ask Mr. McTiernan, do we need to pass a resolution or an ordinance to raise the fee?
If it was done originally by ordinance, which I think it was, it would require an ordinance unless there's a provision in there that says that we can increase it by resolution. So I'll review that. But
yeah, if you can let me know so I can get the advertisement in to get the 7 days.
Yeah, I'll take a look at the existing ordinance on that, and we can move forward.
Mr. Batchy, McTiernan, the various ordinances all say the fee set by time to time by resolution of council.
Look, that's been typical. So if it says that, all we need is a resolution.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we'll have that. We'll have the appropriate instrument prepared for the meeting.
Any comments, deliberations from council? Okay, keep moving. Next item is discuss the 2025 meeting schedule. Mr. Batchy, if you want to let us know kind of where some of the outliers are for that one.
Yeah, we had the first one, of course, is our first meeting of the year, falls on New Year's Day. So we talked about last month about moving it to January 6th on Monday, the 6th. Then we have 2 other holidays that conflict with Jewish holidays, which are September 24th, that agenda meeting, and then the following week, the October regular meeting. And those holidays are, the first is on September 24th, which is the final day of Rosh Hashanah, which ends at nightfall. And then the second is on October 1st, which is the start of Yom Kippur at sunset, which is 7:01 p.m. And I believe Yom Kippur is the holiest day in the Jewish in their the holiest day of observance in the entire year. So just, if what's council's wishes as far as moving these, we can't move the 10-1 meeting back a day because it would put it in September, which we're required to meet monthly, which that wouldn't cover up, that wouldn't give us our monthly meeting. So we'd have to move it to the following week, October 6th. But then we also have the conflict with the agenda meeting the week before. I mean, if you're inclined to move this, would we want to do like 2 Mondays in a row, like September 29th and October 6th?
Yeah, I would agree to changing them to Mondays. I think it's important because of those holidays to allow them to have time to do what they need to do. So definitely, if we can push it back, that wouldn't be a problem for me.
I second that. I think, people have exercising the right to religion is important. So whatever we need to do to accommodate that, I'm totally for.
So should we go with September 29th and October 6th?
I think that makes the most sense.
Okay, and that's it. We couldn't find any other conflicts in that schedule.
Yeah, I mean, the only other one that I want to point out is kind of what we're doing tonight is bumping up before Thanksgiving a week, just so that we're not the day before Thanksgiving.
That, and so we can also do our budget presentation. Then we have our 10 days in between for the public inspection time. So we can adopt at the December meeting.
Yeah. Sounds good. Any additional comments from council?
Okay, we can adopt that next week or at the next meeting then.
Okay. Let's move on to item 6, discuss openings on boards and commissions.
As we have every year at this time, we have openings on boards and commissions such as the Planning Commission, Zoning Hearing Board, Shade Tree Committee, Recreation Committee, and Human Relations Commission for volunteer positions. I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's one on the zoning hearing, 2 on HRC, the Human Relations Commission, 2 on planning, but I'm not sure on the Shade Tree right now, Shade Tree or the Recreation Committee. We just kind of stacked the Recreation Committee this year and got that pretty much fully staffed. But so what we typically do this time of year is sometime during December, Sarah will send out a letter to all the incumbents and ask them to let them know that their term is up. She will ask them if they want to reapply. They have to send something in expressing their intent to be reappointed or their request to be reappointed. At the same time, we'll put it out on all of our social media, put an advertisement in the Valley Mirror that we are looking for volunteers for these. We'll enumerate all the positions that are available. On the social media, it will explain what each board is, what each commission is, and what's expected of you. And then there will be a deadline for any incumbent who wishes to be reappointed or anybody new who wants to be appointed. We usually do the second Friday in January to submit. And then we will council will do interviews prior to the January agenda meeting at 6 or 6:30, depending on how many applicants we have. And then we would appoint at the February 5th, 2025 meeting. That's the way we've done it at least the last 3 years. Is there any concerns or issues with continuing in that manner?
I'll take that silence as acceptance.
Yeah, that seems okay to me.
That's fine.
Sounds great. Well, that will be, so the staff will be working on that over the next month or so, and end of January agenda meeting, we'll have those interviews.
Yes, correct.
So Mr. Batchy informed me before our meeting that there was one additional agenda item that was not on our original printed agenda that was sent out that just came in from the law offices. So Mr. Batchy, if you want to share what that last agenda item is.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mongelo from Tucker Aaronsburg had sent me this afternoon concerning the purchase of the food pantry building at 2028 Noble Street. As everyone's aware, we did receive the grant funding to purchase that building. Prior to the closing on the building, though, he said council needs to pass a resolution to agree to the purchase. We did agree to the sales agreement, at the April meeting via motion, but he said we need to do it via resolution prior to closing to comply with the borough code. So I just asked that we put on the agenda for the December 4th meeting to approve a resolution, which he's provided to me, to allow the purchase of the building.
Any discussion on that item?
Very excited to be moving forward with this. This is something that we really need in our community, and I'm so excited that we are able to be a part of really enabling this to happen. This is just like amazing, and it's something that all members of the community can use at any particular time. But it's particularly, especially as you're getting towards the holidays, when people are really thinking about family and the needs that people have. This is a wonderful thing that we have in our community, and I'm so glad that we're able to enable the food pantry to do this.
Yeah, I agree. They do really great work there. I serve there. I'm there once a month for one of their distributions. I'd encourage any council members who haven't to check them out. I know Ms. Stribling has done some work there. I know Ms. Scales, who was on council, had done some work there. I mean, maybe there's others as well, but it's a great asset to our community. And yeah, glad that we can help to support it remaining here.
Yeah, once we pass the resolution, hopefully we have the contract from the state by then. And we can get the closing scheduled shortly thereafter.
All right, well, that concludes our agenda items, our business for this evening. We're going to move on to our departmental reports. We'll begin with the police report. I see Chief Watson on this meeting. It's good to see you. I heard you were ill this weekend, so I'm grateful that you're feeling well enough to be joining us tonight.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better, thank you. So couple things. One, we have a reoccurring theme with the police about we want people to call 911 and report things. We want people to interact with us and give us information so we can prosecute criminal activity. Well, on the 19th, about 1:30 in the morning, an individual was going through vehicles in the area of Columbia and Lehigh Streets between Swissvale and Edgewood. And Edgewood officers and Swissvale officers worked together and were able to stop this individual, identify them, found that he had gone through a couple of vehicles in Edgewood. I believe Edgewood charged him for what he did in Edgewood. Well, we never had a complaint in Swissvale come forward. And there was a video posted on social media of this individual going through a vehicle. Well, we can charge him for what he did if people call 911 and are victims. So, I mean, there's a case where the officers acted very quickly, did a good job of locating the individual, identifying him, and are able to charge him. If instead of putting that video on social media, on Facebook, on the watch page, which I encourage them to do that also, but if they'd have called 911 and provided us with that video, that individual could have been charged for the crime he committed in Swissvale. So I again implore residents that I know it seems minor that somebody went through your car, but we take everything very seriously. And if we have the opportunity to charge that person for going through the vehicles and stealing your items, we will do that. So, just, we like the interaction with the public. We wanted the residents of Swissvale to feel comfortable calling us because we're going to do what we can to deal with the problem. So any questions or comments on that so far?
I just really want to reinforce what Chief's saying. Thank you, Chief, for bringing this up. I get a lot of calls of folks saying, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal." 911 is not what it used to be. It's not, it's a reporting mechanism as well, because we get reports on, what's our crime rate, what's our situation, what do we need to focus on. So the more we call and report things, the better Chief can do what he does awesome already in allocating the resources that we have to the areas and the things that we need to do. So thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. The other thing on the good note is currently we have a box in the lobby of the borough building that we're trying to collect wrap toys to participate in the Stuff a Store event at Monroeville Mall through the Police Athletic League. That's been going on since the 70s at the Police Athletic League as collected toys, donated them to communities. We participated in that in the past with you, Mr. Ansel, handing toys out in the area. And at the same time, December 22nd from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. this year at Churchill High School, because we try to move it around, we'll be doing our annual Blue Santa toy drive where we hand out, approximately 4,000 toys a year in a drive-up event. We've done it in the town center. We've done it up at the facility we're at now at the Old West Junior High School. We've done it in Braddock Hill Shopping Center at the Propel School, and this year we'll do it at Churchill. So it's an event the officers take part in. They volunteer their time, and it's, I think, a very successful event, and it gets a lot of, we give out bikes, we give out coats and gloves and hats and toys to kids who are not as fortunate, and some of them parents have expressed to us that there would be no Christmas if it wasn't for what we were able to do, and that's through Toys for Pittsburgh Tykes. It's run out of Jaden's Catering by Javid, who's a wonderful individual and very giving, and he's also given us items for the school backpack event we've had before, for community days, for Juneteenth. He's very active in supporting our community events, so I'd like to thank him for what he does for us. Very generous man.
Will you have a flyer out for that, Chief?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Okay, good, because
I'll get it out to all of you.
And I can get that in the stuff, so they'll have that as another resource to get toys for the holidays. So thank you.
Yeah, we work with Woodland Hills School District too to get it out to the students. So,
okay, great.
And Chief, just a point of clarification. You said Churchill High School. Do you mean the Woodland Hills High School?
I'm sorry, Woodland Hills High School in
Okay.
Churchill. Yes.
Just making sure.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions
Good.
for Chief?
Glad you're feeling better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for being here. We'll move on to Fire and Code. Chief Wilhelm.
Yes, just update council. As we mentioned last month, we were advertising for applicants for part-time firefighters, and we did receive about a dozen applications. Assistant Chief Volpe and I will be going through those and set up a time with the fire committee to do interviews for those. With the opening of the full-time position, I will need to fill about 200 hours on the schedule for the minimum staffing each month until we move forward to make a permanent fill for that position. So I'll be looking to hire 3 or 4 part-time firefighters to eliminate unnecessary overtime as we navigate through those. And I just wanted to address one thing. I noticed on Facebook, I noticed a post that, wow, they go through a lot of firefighters. That's not really the case. We get people that come here and, after 6 months, if they don't really fit in or they wash out, some leave. We lose full-timers every year to other departments. We have several firefighters that move on to the city of Pittsburgh, Peters Township, North Strabane, that pay more money. So, because we just happen to be a little bit of a training ground. So I just wanted to get that message out there. That's kind of the situation that we face. And I also just, again, preface, I know Mr. Batchy's been very busy and things. I know from doing that before, everything kind of runs together. I just wanted to make a clarification so there was no misunderstanding. The county didn't provide our fire reporting software, the state did. They provided our primary incident reporting, and then we bought modules from the company that did that so that we can do our occupancy inspections and other things, annual fire inspections through that software. We manage our equipment through there and other things. And the state had put out the bid 2 years ago to switch vendors, and there was somebody contested the award, so they had to start all over. And we're using the same software that we've been using for about 20 years that was transitioned to cloud-based. And if the one we currently use doesn't get it, they're probably going to shut it down abruptly. So we have to move over to what it looks like the state's going to be going to in the new reporting software. And the state covers just a minor module for what's called the PENFERS, the Pennsylvania Fire Incident Reporting System. But the other stuff that we use that is all integrated, the EMS reporting modules and the occupancy inspections and other things, we have to pay up differently. And we currently pay about $4,000, and that's going to increase to about $10,000. That's why there was that $6,000 increase in that line item. Also, I had the opportunity to attend the International Association of Fire Chiefs Volunteer Combination Officer Section Conference last week, and I'm part of that organization and part of that conference, and had the opportunity to present 2 sessions. It's attended by about 700 fire chiefs and officers and volunteer and combination officers similar to ours from throughout the country. So it's a great opportunity to be able to talk about what we do here and our successes, and very thankful for that to represent Swissvale on a national stage. And lastly, I have some good news. I think it's some good news. It's mixed news. As you know, the struggle with the properties of 2115 and 17 Noble Street. We've been to the court, as we discussed last month, and it was continued. While I was out of the office last week, we did receive 2 applications. One from a demolition contractor retained by the owners to actually demolish 2117 Noble Street. So I did speak with Jocelyn today just to confirm, because she dropped off another building permit application for 2115, and we're going to navigate through some of those issues because the original plans included connecting both buildings. But I guess her intention now is to demolish 2117. I believe we issued the permit contingent on the contractor providing the workers' comp insurance and/or addendum. So hopefully we'll see some progress in the removal of 2117. And her intention is to then just renovate 2115 Noble. That was the building that was unaffected by the collapse. So I'd like to end that on a positive note. It's progress, and we might be able to save one of those buildings if she follows through and does it. She's allegedly been meeting with contractors this past week, and I will have more to report, hopefully conclusively, at the next agenda meeting.
Thanks so much, Chief Wilhelm. And that's great news. I mean, it's progress. I know that's been kind of a long-standing, just feels like we're spinning our wheels. So glad that there's been some movement on that. And great that if one of the buildings can be salvaged, wonderful. But I know that one that collapsed was in pretty poor condition.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other comments or questions for Chief Wilhelm?
I just have a question, Chief.
Yeah.
You know what's happening with Masters Hardware? There was some talk on Facebook regarding the building, and just an update if you have anything.
Yes, the individuals who bought that are finishing up with some minor building permit closeouts for the apartments upstairs, and I guess they're getting ready to rent those. They're still exploring, I think, opportunities and ideas of what they're going to do for the first floor. They had asked about potentially putting residential to the rear of it, but I don't know how they can do that because our zoning ordinance requires the first 20 feet of retail space to remain. And you really can't put captive bedrooms in the middle of a building without access outside. Without windows and things like that. So I think the owners, I believe it's 2 partners, are still trying to navigate and figure out what their intentions are and what they want to do. But I can tell you that there's no progress on the first floor retail space at this point. They are getting the apartments finished so that they can lease those. And as more information comes available, I will keep you abreast.
I muted myself. Thank you, Chief Wilhelm. We'll move on to the Public Works report. Mr. Batchy is going to give that in Mr. D'Ambrosio's absence.
Thanks, sir. I'll just do his report and then I'll roll right into mine. Mr. D'Ambrosio is supposed to come back to work on Monday, so he is doing better, and he will be back with us next week. So glad to hear that. But he's wanted me to communicate the leaf collection will be ending on Friday, December 6th. So we have next week and the following week to continue to collect leaves as well as the rest of this week. And garbage and recycling next week as a result of Thanksgiving, Thursday and Friday, garbage and recycling will both be pushed back one day. So that's if you're on Thursday, you'll be picked up Friday. Friday will be picked up Saturday. Couple things from the Borough Manager's report. We do have a planning commission meeting scheduled for December 12th, and that is Ms. DiTimona that Clyde was speaking about with the property at 2115 17 has applied to consolidate the 2 lots into 1 lot because there are part of the building, even if she demolishes 2117, part of the plan for 2115 to put exterior steps would be on the other property. So she's going to combine the 2 lots. So that is at 6 p.m. On December 12th. We do have the bid opening for the borough building scheduled. I did talk to Core Architects today, and we initially had it scheduled for December 2nd. December 3rd. We're going to move it back 1 week because a couple contractors had asked, because when we scheduled it, I didn't realize how close it was to the holiday. Last 2 years, Thanksgiving was like the November 22nd, 23rd, and we had a full week after that. We don't this time. And so it's like, people want to take a holiday weekend. If we're going to get better bids, we want to give the most people the opportunity to bid. So we pushed that back till December 10th at 2 p.m. And that will be here at the borough offices. So any council members want to attend, please feel free. It's at 2 p.m. We can see what the bids are and hopefully move forward with this. And the last thing I have is on December 2nd at 6 p.m. in the basement of the Swissvale Library, we will be having a public meeting for our active transportation plan. Anyone that is interested in active transportation, which is basically anything but driving, if you're a pedestrian, if you're a bicyclist, if you're in a wheelchair and use the roads, the handicap ramps and crosswalks on a regular basis, we invite you to come to that meeting. Even if you don't do that, we invite you to come to the meeting. We'll have staff from TPD, which is the company we hired to do the active transportation plan, as well as myself and Sarah from our staff. And we'll also have the steering committee members will be there to answer questions that people may have or to take your input. There'll be boards, there'll be stations all around the room showing the study area, which is basically South Braddock from the Parkway up to the Kenmore Bridge, Monongahela, the entire length of it, and basically all the streets that connect it to Woodstock Avenue, Schroyer Avenue up to the school, Church Street to the park, McClure Avenue, basically everything in between, to try to come up with strategies to make walking and bicycling and wheeling in a wheelchair safer. So that's at 6 p.m. on the 2nd. There will also be an online survey that's going to go live in the next couple of days. You can access via our social media and website if you want to provide input. If you don't want to come to the meeting, or you can do both. You can provide input, written input, and then come to the meeting too to tell us. But that meeting will be at 6 p.m. and that will be as long as we need to be there. There's no end time scheduled, and whatever until we hear everybody. It's not going to be where people stand up and talk in front of everybody, but it's like we'll be soliciting input, on an individual basis. And I think we can get more input that way in a shorter amount of time. So people don't have to spend 3 or 4 hours there. So Monday the 2nd at 6 p.m. everybody's welcome at the library in the basement. That's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Batchey? Okay, we'll move on to the president's report. I really didn't have much. Mayor Schwartzwelder, are you available? I didn't invite her earlier. She would speak better about this than I would, but I just was going to announce the Night of Lights that is coming up. I'm sure she will share about this in 2 weeks at the in-person meeting, but it's going to be December 7th from 4 to 7 p.m. It's Night of Lights, lighting the tree. There's lots of crafts. There's a night market. There's a lot of we've gone to it a number of years, and it's a great fun event. So hopefully you can join us for that. So that's all. Oh, there you are.
Oh,
I'm
here.
Do you want to add
Can you
anything
hear
else
me?
to that? We can.
Okay. I'm having some audio problems. So yeah, December 7th, 4 p.m. the vendors market starts, and it will be a lot of the vendors that were at the farmers market. So they will be there, and we have a few added. Can you still hear me?
We can.
And we'll have Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, crafts for the kids. We're going to also do the collection of the wrapped presents for that the police are collecting. So we'll have that and refreshments, caroling, tree lighting, hayride, and it'll be a lovely evening. So that's December 7th, Saturday from 4 to 7.
Great. Thank you so much for making that announcement.
I hope you all heard me.
We did. We heard you. Thank you. That's all I have for this month. So we'll just keep moving on to the solicitor's report, Mr. McTiernan.
Yes, good evening. Just two brief items. I wanted to confirm that, in fact, the borough's Code of Ordinances in Chapter 20, specifically Section 20-302, provides that fees for the collection of garbage may be established from time to time by resolution of Borough Council. So that'll spare us the advertising costs. It just has to be 24 hours notice on the agenda, of course, the resolution. And I did want to mention, and tying in with something that Mr. Batchey raised, my colleague Dave Mongelo sent a resolution. That title report for that building came back yesterday, and there are no problems with the title, which was good news. The only thing they did ask for the closing is they would like to have the documentation of a resolution, so we can take care of that easily. And that's all I have this evening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any questions for Mr. McTiernan? All right. Is there any other new business that we may have missed? Well, hearing none, I would welcome the entertainment of a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 7:41 p.m.
Just real quick.
Second.
Wait, Chris, sorry, I was trying to get off mute. The only, not new business, but just kind of an announcement, I'd like to applaud Sisters PGH for their wonderful vigil tonight. They were celebrating the annual Trans Memorial Day. I don't think I'm saying it right, but it was a wonderful event. I was able to run over there in between our meetings, and large crowd. If you want to hear more about it, look for it in the newsletter. Sarah, I'll get you some stuff.
Yeah, and what he was saying was today is the Trans Day of Remembrance. So he was speaking on that. Yeah, I got you, Kevin.
Thanks, bro.
Also, have a happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Happy holidays. We are in that season now, so let's have a very joyous Thanksgiving with your families, and I hope you have a good time.
I will have a motion to re-adjourn at 7:42 p.m.
And I'll
Second.
All right. On the table, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 All right. See you later. Thanks, everyone.